What's up, my Bitter Bros? Maine-iac here with the NBA award video. Tomorrow is going to be the postseason predictions, so stay tuned for that. As for this one, I figured I'd go with the awards. I just did the play as today. The season's finished. Playoffs are about to start. And I took over the Celtics. Of course, no implications because literally I'm playing as it is today. I set it up today. The season's completed. All the seeds are decided, stuff like that. And the awards are decided as well. And we're going to go over who we think would win each award, maybe do commentary about what the 2K picks were, maybe stuff like that, we will see. As you can see, NBA 2K went with James Harden for MVP. This is where I would have to highly digress. Now, no offense to anybody who picks James Harden, he's had a great season, he is a great offensive player. My arguments, I guess, mainly against James Harden for MVP is his habit of baiting fouls makes a joke out of legitimate shooters. If you're going to shoot but flail your arms and legs to draw fouls, you have absolutely none of my respect. That's a chicken shit move. He led the league in turnovers by a large by a large amount. My pick for MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, had like 119 less turnovers than James Harden. And not a knock against James Harden. Like I said, he's had one of the greatest offensive seasons in recent memory. But what I like about Giannis over James Harden, and now this isn't saying James Harden or Giannis is like clearly ahead of him. It's kind of a 1A, 1B situation. For me, Giannis is an incredible defender. His performance against Joel Embiid in the paint, what he's capable of, he can guard anybody 1 through 5. He had 4 blocks against Joel Embiid. That is absolutely insane. He's huge. He's a threat. He can't really shoot the 3 as well, which is James Harden's specialty. Well, James Harden's specialty is free throw shooting, but James Harden can sink the 3. Speaking of free throw shooting, it is the free throw he missed against the Thunder that let them make a miraculous 3 at the end of the game. That ended up biting them in the ass because now they're the 4th seed and have to face Golden State in round 2. No, let's not speak of that. It has to do more than that. Giannis, I believe, is a much better defender. He's much better inside the paint. He's not as baity with his moves, although I believe Harden is the better offensive player. I think Giannis is a much, much better defensive player. And now I know Harden gets his steals, but it kind of gets balanced out by his massive amount of turnovers. I think this year he was up to like 387, something like that. And it's so high. He owns 2 of the 3 most turnovers in a single season in NBA history. Granted, last year when he had over 400 something turnovers, he won MVP. But that's because someone didn't have a season like Giannis has. Giannis has been very solid. He's been very, very good. He's been by far the best player on the best team in the league. And usually that's a lot of ways that people mark MVPs. It's been done before. Stuff like Derrick Rose and the Chicago Bulls. He was the best player on one of the best teams in the league. Same with James Harden, I guess. But when Steph Curry won it, by far the best player and by far the best team in the league. So it has happened before. So although I see James Harden winning it, I like to go Giannis because I'm a guy who values defense. I'm also a guy who a few years ago I was rooting for AD to win MVP because of the outstanding defensive season he had. But I won't be mad if Harden wins it. I just wish he would stop crying when he doesn't get foul calls for non-fouls. It's odd. Then for Rookie of the Year, you have Luka Doncic, who they have winning. I also have winning Rookie of the Year as well. As much as I like how Trae Young emerged at the end of the season, I feel like having John Collins there helped him out a bit. Whereas with Luka, you were just the dominant presence from day one. Now, one argument could be made for Luka Doncic is the fact that he has played professionally. He has played professionally overseas. Granted, he got drafted this year, so he is an NBA rookie. But a lot of people a few people might see, oh, Trae Young was just in college, didn't play professionally overseas. then came to the NBA, so maybe he should get it. But overall, I like what Luka has done. He hasn't had the greatest supporting cast, although when Kristaps gets healthy, it will get better. Trae Young, incredible player, incredible. But I think Luka's been a little bit better. He did get a triple-double recently, which was nice. Now, I think this one's really close as well. I honestly think percentage for first place votes for this one could be around like 58-42 or like 55-45, something like that. So I think it's going to be a close race in the end. And as you can see, some of the people who won Rookie of the Year recently, a lot of them have turned out to be really, really good or really great players like Blake Griffin, Irving, Damian Lillard, Towns. Bob Brogdon's pretty solid. Simmons can't shoot outside the paint for shit, but he's been a really good player. And as for Sixth Man of the Year, one I don't really have anybody else than Lou Williams in this one, as the NBA 2K thing had. But my biggest thing against Lou Williams for Sixth Man of the Year is this man should not be riding the bench. How is this man who is so good, riding your goddamn bench, LA, when your starting guards aren't better than him? It's almost like a situation, as you can see, where Jamal Crawford got Sixth Man of the Year for the Clippers a few years ago, or Eric Gordon for the Rockets a few years ago. These men got Sixth Man of the Year, even though they shouldn't have been riding the bench whatsoever. I feel like in some situations, there's players like James Harden who have starter capability, who are coming off the bench, who come out, ball, win Sixth Man. I like that. But Lou Williams has been riding, he's a vet, he's been riding the bench way too long. He should be a starter. He shouldn't qualify for Sixth Man of the Year because he's that good. Not against him. Honestly, riding the bench like he does, though, might be the perfect fit for a player like Jamal Crawford when he was with the Clippers, or Lou Williams. They seem to thrive off of having a guard / 3 off the bench because they can come in, lead the bench, keep them from falling too far behind. And I think Lou Williams is a perfect complement for that Los Angeles Clippers team, especially with Gallinari and that roster needing it when they face the Warriors soon. So congrats to Lou Williams. I hope he actually does win it, because this guy is one of the most underrated players I've seen in the NBA recently, and I want him to start somewhere so bad. So bad. And then for Defensive Player of the Year, like I said, for my MVP, I don't have the MVP winning Defensive Player of the Year. Honestly, as good of a season as Giannis has had defensively, I would still rate Rudy Gobert a little bit higher. This is not necessarily a 1A, 1B situation. It's a 1 and 2. Gobert is reigning Defensive Player of the Year, and I think he should win it again. I think one of the greatest travesties in the NBA is, if you look back to 2009-2010, Anthony Davis has not won a Defensive Player of the Year, even though he's been amazing. So Giannis has been a great defender, and the fact that NBA 2K recognizes him as Defensive Player of the Year with his offensive presence as well solidifies to me his MVP consideration. But I still have to go Rudy Gobert. He is the anchor for not necessarily a great defensive team, but a relatively very solid defensive team, anchored by Rudy Gobert and obviously Ricky Rubio. But it's a close race. It could go either way, but Rudy Gobert, he's becoming he puts almost all his energy on defense. He is like the antithesis of James Harden, where James Harden is almost all offense, Rudy Gobert is almost all defense. And one of the reasons why I should say why I'm putting Rudy Gobert as Defensive Player of the Year over Giannis as well is I'm thinking Giannis is winning the MVP, or at least I'd pick Giannis to win the MVP. So I'm going to pick a different player like Rudy Gobert, who I do think is a slightly better defender, to pick Defensive Player of the Year. Whereas if James Harden does win MVP, I might be tempted to pick Giannis as Defensive Player of the Year, just so Giannis can actually be recognized for something. And you have Most Improved Player, Buddy Hield. What the fuck is this game thinking? Buddy Hield has had a really good season. He's not Most Improved Player at all. Not at all. As you can see, they've had some legitimate players here before. Kevin Love, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, CJ McCollum, Giannis, Victor Oladipo, all great players. Buddy Hield ain't fucking not my most improved player. You have two options here, realistically, for most improved player. You have D'Angelo Russell and Pascal Siakam from the Toronto Raptors. Now, Buddy Hield might be a third or fourth player on that list, or at least my list, but to me, it's Siakam, hands down. One argument to be made for me against D'Angelo Russell being most improved player over Siakam is the fact that D'Angelo Russell was a starter. He was having those moments. He just didn't convert. And although he has improved tremendously, I think, let's say if you're reaching your potential and using like a potential meter, Siakam was playing at like maybe 10% last year, where Russell was playing at about a 40. And right now, they're probably both at a solid 75-80% of their potential. Siakam has been a tremendous addition for a Raptors team that, honestly, at the beginning wasn't, threatening necessarily all around, like all five positions. Lowry was a weakness at most of the points. And when you have a defender like a Gasol or like an Ibaka at the center position, having a four like Siakam, who can guard the three, maybe not the greatest, but can guard the three, can go on the inside, can dominate you. He can actually produce on offense really well. He might not necessarily be as good as a D'Angelo Russell or even a Buddy Hield right now. I do think he's better than Buddy Hield, though. He might not be as good as a D'Angelo Russell, but I think D'Angelo Russell was already a relatively solid player last year. And where Siakam was riding the pine, Siakam was almost a nobody. I think he's got to win Most Improved Player hands down. No knock against Buddy Hield, where I've had him on my fantasy team all year. No knock against D'Angelo Russell, who's had a tremendous season for the Nets, getting them to the postseason. But for me, it's Pascal Siakam of the Toronto Raptors. Giving them, I just want to look down here for a second, giving the Raptors their first Most Improved Player since ever, since at least 1985. Holy shit. That is incredible. And then you have all NBA first team. I'm not really go over who I have for the first team. I'm just going to see what NBA 2K has. And then if I'd make some adjustments, maybe I'll go over that. Who knows? And looking at who they have so far, they have James Harden and Russell Westbrook at the guard position for the first team. I can't really argue too much against that. The only arguments I would have here are possible Steph Curry, Damian Lillard. Those two have been tremendous as well. And for four, they have Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Paul George. They're both having actually a really good defensive season, both of them. One thing about Paul George is where he did dip off a little bit after the All-Star break. It could hurt him for a first-team selection, especially when you're fighting forwards like a Kevin Durant or possibly a Kawhi Leonard if some people vote him in, although I don't really necessarily think Kawhi is deserving of a first team. Jokic at the center position, it would be nice to see him there. That one could go to either him or Rudy Gobert. I think those two are probably going to be the top two. I can't, like I said, maybe I would throw Damian Lillard in over Russell Westbrook, but it's a tough one actually, and it's a pretty solid first team. If you go to second team, that's another player I forgot to mention. Bradley Beal having a tremendous season, also worthy of a possible first team. Second team here, Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, Durant, Blake Griffin, and Joel Embiid. One reason I would put Gobert above Embiid is, as well as Embiid has played, he's again having health issues. And again, I don't want to hold it over him, but his durability is a huge concern. Blake Griffin, as good as a season he's had, I question maybe putting him in there. I'm trying to think of another player I would put over Blake Griffin. Maybe a Kawhi Leonard. I can't really think of anybody else right now. But holy shit. I don't feel like Blake Griffin is... He doesn't scream all NBA second team to me. Although, if he gets it, I wouldn't be mad. He's had a very solid season for the Pistons, carrying them to the 8th seed in the East. And you look at the third team, you have Kemba Walker, another great season for him. Steph Curry, all the way at the third team. DeMar DeRozan, another player capable of getting that second team. Luka Doncic, a rookie, which would be very solid. And Karl Anthony Towns, very solid. This would be Curry's third straight year of getting All-NBA third team, which is odd considering some consider him to be the best shooter in the league. One interesting note for me is I gotta go back to the All-NBA third team is the outright omission of Rudy Gobert on the All-NBA team. And I thought maybe he would get some consideration. But, again, Kawhi Leonard, maybe I would put him on the third team over Luka. Although Luka's had a solid season. DeRozan, I support that as well. Another player I forgot about who could go relatively over Blake Griffin. If you consider it a small forward, power forward, if you consider it like that, I would put DeRozan in over Griffin at the 3 with Durant at the 4. That's a tough call, though. And then you got the defensive first team. We have Russell Westbrook, Jrue Holiday, Antetokounmpo, Green, and Gobert. I don't know exactly how I would argue this one, but it's hard. As good as Jrue Holiday has been this season, it's hard putting him on the all-defensive first team when he's missed nearly half the season and he's been out for such a long time. But one thing I like about this is this would be, I think, Gobert's third straight year as the all-defensive first team center, which is awesome. Very solid team. Westbrook has been a relatively good defender when it comes to rebounds and steals. Giannis and Rudy Gobert, as I mentioned, for Defensive Player of the Year. One interesting pick is Draymond Green over Paul George, which I can get behind because Draymond Green's been a very solid defender, like he usually is. One thing I'm just questioning is Jrue Holiday, but the only player I could relatively think of to put above Jrue Holiday for all defensive first team, as controversial as it is Marcus Smart, because Marcus Smart, to me, can guard the 1, 2, 3. He even guards the 5 sometimes, which is just crazy, and I don't know why he does it. But Jrue Holiday, probably all NBA first team. And speaking of all defensive second team, Marcus Smart, very capable apparently of winning the first team if NBA 2K selects him to the second team. That's nice recognition. James Harden is on the second team for his probably tenacity to steal. We have Paul George and Siakam as well, with Miles Turner getting the second team defensive for the Indiana Pacers. Only thing I would change about that, as good as Miles Turner has been defensively, I would maybe consider a Drummond type there, where his tenacity for rebounds, but that one's a close call. There's a lot of good defensive centers in the league. And we look at the all-rookie team. Not much argument here whatsoever. For guards, we have Colin Sexton, who's actually he's been proving very, very steadily over the season. Trae Young, both really good point guards. Then you have Bagley and Doncic at the forward position. Not much to argue there as well. I was hoping at the beginning of the year that Robert Williams of the Celtics would be in contention for this, but that boy has not played at all, so I can't really say much more than that. DeAndre Ayton, to me, has been the clear-cut center for the all-rookie first team because he's had a really good season when healthy. Now, as for the rest of this, who would I move? Who would I possibly replace? I can't necessarily say there's a lot of good players, but to me, the as you can see here, the second team I think are just a little bit below. As good as Jaren Jackson and Shai Alexander has been for the Clippers, I think they're just a small step below. Not dissing them whatsoever. Amazing potential. Same with Mikal Bridges. It's just a little bit behind. But Knox and Robinson, nice to see the Knicks getting some recognition, I guess, in this thing. I have no comment to say about them because I don't watch the Knicks. They have Mike Budenholzer winning Coach of the Year, which this is an award I don't like at all because it's a very biased award. If you look at, in fact, Dwayne Casey from last year, who won Coach of the Year, having a completely healthy team that had been together for about 3-4 years straight, it seemed at that point, compared to a, obviously bias here, Celtics team that lost 2 of its best players, and somehow still manage to be one of the top seeds in the East. So, Bucks, the difference here with Boldenhauser is he doesn't have a roster that screams, oh my god, they're amazing. It screams, you have possibly one of the best players in the league, if not the best player in the league. You have a solid supporting cast of Brogdon, Mirotic when healthy. That addition has been great, and Lopez has been solid as well. I would be perfectly okay with Mike Boldenhauser. There's not many people I would actually place over him. The only people I would consider is maybe the coach of the Nuggets for them managing to get where they are with the 2 seed out west. Other than that, maybe the Clippers just for what Doc Rivers has managed. But Boldenhauser is definitely my clear-cut number 1 there. That takes us back to the MVP, James Harden. And that's what we're going to call right there. Just for shits and giggles, I know I said I'm going to do playoffs tomorrow, but we're just going to simulate the playoffs, see who they have winning it. $100 probably says the Warriors, because they always have the Warriors. They always have the Warriors winning this thing, no matter how many times you simulate. And it's interesting to see the Nuggets getting swept by the San Antonio Spurs. Portland losing in 5. Utah taking them to 7 is interesting. And yeah, Milwaukee beating Boston in 5. I can totally 100% see that. Warriors, Thunder, Bucks, Raptors. Who's making it to the finals? Oh, it's a close game. Oh, we have a 7-game series. Toronto sneaks up against the Bucks and then proceeds to get their ass spanked by the Warriors. Where Curry averaging 41 minutes a game, 30 points. Holy shit. Damn. That's solid. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you are new. Let me know who you have for every award. Let me know what you think about the NBA 2K thing that they had going through, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.